Alrighty guys, welcome to our NBA video here today for Tuesday, December 27th, 2022. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you find yourself enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. I greatly appreciate if you took just half a second to do that. You have no idea how much that helps the channel and spikes the algorithm. And if you haven't done so already, please feel free to hit that subscribe button as well. I'd love to connect with you on a daily basis. Now, if you want to see which one of these games I'm actually betting on personally, games that I personally have my own action on, I'll include a link for my website in the description section below. Now, I strongly recommend the board member package. It gives you access to every single bet, every single membership, every single day for the next 30 days. With that, guys, we're going to jump into some free content. We're going to take a look at the Lakers at the Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Now, Orlando's the 3-point favorite, totals 235.5. And as good as Orlando's been lately, they're still 8 games below 500. And they're also in the bottom 5 in scoring. Now, they're also facing a Laker team who's in the top 3 in points per game on the road. LeBron James is averaging over 27.5 points a night, along with 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Meanwhile, Lonnie Walker is scoring over 15 points a game himself. Now, injury-wise, AD is still out. Toscano Anderson is inactive still as well. Meanwhile, for Orlando on the other side, Jalen Suggs is out for them. When it comes to the total, Orlando's 5-1 to the over in their last 6. Meanwhile, LA went 80% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Lakers plus 3 over 235.5. Next game, Sixers, Wizards, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Philadelphia's minus 4.5, totals 226. Now, the Red Hot Sixers won their last 8 straight, and they covered in all of those victories except for one. Now, the Sixers have been catapulted by some really strong defense. They're allowing only 107 points a game. And they have the lowest defensive three-point percentage in the NBA. When it comes to offensive production, Joel Embiid's averaging a league-high 33 points a game. Meanwhile, Tobias Harris is drilling nearly 41% of his three-pointers. Now, they're facing a Wizards team who lost 8 out of their last 10. And they have a terrible time covering the number at home. Out of 15 contests in the Capitol, the Wizards covered the point spread in just 33% of those games. And no real surprise here, guys. They're also scoring fewer points a game at home than most clubs in the Eastern Conference. Now, injury-wise, Barton and Avdija are questionable for the Wizards. Meanwhile, for Philly on the other side, they are mostly healthy, for the exception of Tyrese Maxey. When it comes to the total in this one, Philadelphia saw unders against the likes of Detroit, Toronto, and Sacramento. Meanwhile, Washington went 80% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Philadelphia minus 4.5, under 226. Next matchup, it is going to be Hawks-Pacers, 7:30 p.m. East. Atlanta's the 1.5-point favorite, totals 239. Now, the Hawks got the W in 3 out of their last 4. They're one of the better road-scoring teams in the game. These guys are in the top 5 in points per contest away from home. Now, Trae Young's also scoring 27.5 points a game, along with 9.9 assists. Meanwhile, Bojan Bogdanovic is drilling 40% of his shots from three-land. Now, they're facing an Indy squad who's arguably the worst rebounding team in the East. These guys are in the bottom 5 in both offensive and defensive boards. When it comes to defensive play, not many teams allow more fourth-quarter points than the Pacers. These guys are in the bottom 5 in fourth-quarter points allowed at home. Now, injury-wise, Tice and Brown are still out. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, Culver and Capella are out for them. Hunter and Krejci are questionable. When it comes to the total, the Hawks went 6-2 to the over in their last 8 ball games. They're also 11-5 to the over as the road team. I'm going to lean toward Atlanta minus 1.5. Over 239. Next matchup, it is going to be Rockets-Celtics, 7:30 p.m. East. Boston's the 15-point favorite, totals 231. Now, I do have concerns about this large number. Boston failed to cover in 6 out of their last 8. And those were failures to cover against the likes of a banged-up Minnesota team, twice to Orlando, and once against Golden State during that stretch. Now, the Celtics have also had their issues on defense. They're in the bottom 10 in defensive boards, and they have one of the higher defensive field goal percentages at home in the East. They're also facing a Houston squad who does a real nice job of grabbing rebounds themselves. Houston's in the top 5 in offensive boards, top 3 in defensive rebounding on the road. When it comes to covering the point spread, the Rockets did get the job done against the number in 6 out of their last 10. When it comes to offensive production, Jalen Green is scoring over 21 points a game, along with 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Meanwhile, Kevin Porter Jr., he's dropping nearly 20 a night himself. When it comes to the injury report, Jayshawn Tate is questionable for the Rockets. Meanwhile, for Boston, Danilo Gallinari, he's still out for them. When it comes to the total, Boston is 14-4 to the over at the Garden. Meanwhile, Houston saw overs against the likes of Chicago, Orlando, and San Antonio. I'm going to lean toward the Rockets plus 15, over 231. Next game, it is going to be Clippers-Raptors, 7:30 p.m. East. Toronto's the 5-point favorite, totals 219. But despite being favored in this one, the Raptors lost 7 out of their last 10. They're one of the worst shooting teams in the league. Toronto's in the bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage. They're also making just 32% of their shots from three-land. Now, they're also facing a Clipper team who covered in 7 out of their last 9. They play some of the toughest defense in the NBA. These guys allow only 107 points a game, and they're in the top 3 in guarding the field goal. Now, scoring-wise, Paul George is averaging over 23.5 points a game, along with 6 boards, 5 assists. Meanwhile, Kawhi Leonard scoring over 16 points a night himself. When it comes to the injury report, the Clippers are mostly healthy against the number at the moment. No significant inactives to report to you. Meanwhile, for Toronto, Birch is questionable. Achua and Porter are out. When it comes to the total, Toronto saw overs against the likes of Philadelphia, Orlando, and Boston. Meanwhile, the Clippers went 4-3 to the under in their last 7. I'm going to lean toward the LA Clippers plus 5, under 219. Next ball game, it is going to be Suns Grizzlies, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Memphis is -8, totals 226. Now, the Grizzlies should cover this number here. The Suns are currently banged up, and the Grizzlies covered in 7 out of their last 10. Now, Memphis has also been dominant at the FedEx Forum. They're 13-2 in front of their own fans, and they covered in 80% of those home games. John Morant scores over 26.5 points a game, along with 6 rebounds, 7 assists. Desmond Bane, he's also drilling 41% of his long balls. Now, they're facing a Phoenix team who's on a 3-game skid. They also lost 7 out of their last 10. Now, the Suns are also going to work without Devin Booker, Cam Payne, and Landry Shamet. All those guys are inactive for tonight. And even when these guys are mostly healthy, this is a Suns team who really doesn't play well on the road. Phoenix has a .333 win percentage while traveling. When it comes to the injury report, once again, Booker, Payne, and Shamet are out. Meanwhile, for Memphis, Danny Green is questionable with a knee. When it comes to the total in this one, Memphis saw their last 4 straight stay under the number. 7-2 to the under in their last 9. Meanwhile, Phoenix saw unders against the likes of Washington, LA Clippers, and this very Memphis team. I'm going to lean toward the Grizzlies -8, under 226. Next game. It's the Thunder. Who the hell are they playing? I'm sorry, it's not the Thunder. It's, Where are they? Yeah, there it is. Spurs, Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Oklahoma City's -7, totals 236.5. Now, OKC covered in 5 out of their last 7, and they're having little issue getting to the basket at home. They're scoring nearly 118 points a game in the Paycom Center. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's also scoring a team-high 31 points a night. He's currently drilling 93% of his free throws as well. Now, Josh Giddey, he's averaging over 14.5 points a game himself. They're facing a Spurs team who lost 10 of 15 while traveling. They're allowing more points a game than any other team in the NBA. And no real surprise here, guys. The Spurs have the highest defensive field goal percentage in the game right now. And they're letting their opponents make nearly 42% of their three-pointers against them. Now, injury-wise, the Spurs are relatively healthy at the moment. Meanwhile, for OKC, Robinson, Earl, Williams, and Deng are questionable. When it comes to the total, OKC's 11-6 to the over in their own arena. Meanwhile, San Antonio went 60% to the over as the road team. I'm going to lean toward OKC -7 over 236.5. Next game, it is going to be Knicks Mavericks, 8:30 p.m. East. Dallas is -5, totals 219. And even though the Spurs won a handful of games at home, they are one of the worst covering teams in the game. Out of 18 home games this year, the Spurs covered only 6 times. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, no one grabs fewer offensive boards than the Mavs. They're facing a Knicks team who's in the top 3 in offensive rebounding themselves. We're also looking at one of the better defensive teams in the association. New York currently has the lowest defensive field goal percentage on the road in the NBA. When it comes to offensive production, Julius Randle's averaging over 23 points a game along with 9 boards. Meanwhile, RJ Barrett, he's scoring 20 points a game himself. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Jalen Brunson's questionable. Obi Toppin's still out. Meanwhile, for Dallas on the other side, Dorian Finney-Smith is out. Walker and Ntilikina are questionable. When it comes to the total, 5 out of Dallas's last 7 did stay under the number. Meanwhile, the Knicks are 11-5 to the under while traveling. I'm going to lean toward the Knicks +5 under 219. Next ball game, it is going to be Hornets Warriors, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Golden State's -4.5, totals 240. Now, the Warriors should be able to get the job done at home despite their injuries. They're in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage in their own building. They're also limiting their competition to just 29% shooting in the Chase Center. When it comes to offensive production, Jordan Poole's averaging nearly 20 points a night, along with 87% shooting from the foul line. Meanwhile, Klay Thompson scores over 18 points a game himself. They're facing a Hornets team who lost 14 of 19 away from home. The Hornets are also allowing 121 points a game in their travels, and they're in the bottom 3 in defensive boards. Now, injury-wise, Dennis Smith and Nick Richards are questionable. Cody Martin's out. Meanwhile, for Golden State on the other side, Wiggins and Green are out for them. Steph Curry's still nursing a shoulder. And when it comes to the total, Golden State's 6-1 to the over in their last 7. Meanwhile, Charlotte's 13-6 to the over as the road team. I'm going to lean toward Golden State -4.5 over 240. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. It is going to be Nuggets at the Kings, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Denver's the 3-point favorite, totals 241. And even though this is a short number, you still got to consider the fact that the Red Hot Nuggets, they really haven't been a great covering team. They failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. And they've been pretty bad against the number on the road. These guys are covering in only 35% of their contests away from Denver. And equally as bad, the Nuggets are allowing their opponents to make 51% of their field goals against them when they travel. Now they're facing a Kings team who's got a .600 win percentage in the Golden One Center. And they score more points at home than any other team in the league. Now, Sacramento's averaging a league-high 123 points a night in front of their home crowd. De'Aaron Fox, he's also scoring over 23 points a game, along with 5 boards, 5 assists. Now, Kevin Huerter, he's making over 41% of his three-pointers. When it comes to the injury report, Domantas Sabonis is questionable with a hand. Meanwhile, for Denver on the other side, Green and Gillespie are still out for them. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, the Nuggets saw overs against the likes of Phoenix, Washington, and Dallas. Meanwhile, Sacramento's 10-5 to the over as the official home team. I'm going to lean toward the Kings +3 over 241. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and jump into our quick pick recap. I like the Lakers +3 over 235.5. Give me Philadelphia -4.5 under 226. Atlanta -1.5 over 239. And if you're joining me here today on TikTok, please feel free to give this video a like by smashing that heart button. I greatly appreciate it. If you took just a half a second to do that, you have no idea how much that helps my channel here. And if you haven't followed me already, please feel free to give me a follow. I'd love to connect with you on a daily basis. Give me Houston +15 over 231. LA Clippers +5 under 219. Memphis -8 under 226. Oklahoma City -7 over 236.5. New York Knicks +5 under 219. Golden State -4.5 over 240. With my next and final free pick, I'm going to lean toward the Kings +3 over 241. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my website. If you guys do end up getting a membership here today, just keep in mind, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And of course, as an added bonus, I'm also going to throw in all of my cheaper memberships for you. Absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, guys, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.